سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا. سهل علينا أمورنا وعلمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما نافعا. ثم أما بعد، مرحبا بكم معنا أيها الإخوة الأحبة الكرام في هذا اللقاء الطيب المبارك وقبل الأخير. طالما أننا غدا إن شاء الله سيكون رمضان، فهذا هو اللقاء قبل الأخير من هذه السلسلة المباركة التي بدأناها منذ بداية هذا الشهر، تربية الأولاد في الإسلام.
بسم الله، الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. Sheikh Ahmed Al-Sherdy started by praising Allah, sending salams upon the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And Sheikh went to make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us beneficial knowledge, make our affairs easier and increase us in knowledge. And we would like to welcome all of us, all of you, my dear brothers and sisters who have taken your time out to attend this blessed gathering. A gathering where we learn how to nurture our children in Islam. And this is the second last sitting that we're going to have before the end of Ramadan, inshallah ta'ala.
انتهينا بالأمس من الحديث. كل ما أقرأ العنصر أفتكر إبراهيم.
Sheikh, he said every time he thinks about this, this point, he looks at these two brothers.
حث البالغين على الزواج قدر المستطاع وتذليل عقباته.
And this is the point that we've discussed for the past two sittings, is to urge the youth, and especially when they reach the age of puberty, to get married.
فإن لم يكن فيحثون على الصيام.
And if they're not able to get married, then should be advised to fast.
وتكلمنا عن هذا بشيء من التفصيل أمس وأول أمس.
And we spoke about this quite extensively yesterday and the day before yesterday.
النقطة 51.
And then the 51st point, 51st point.
إبعاد الأولاد عن المثيرات الجنسية.
And this is to distance our children from things that will increase their desires, meaning things or certain things that will cause them to increase their desires.
وهذا طبعا مهم جدا جدا جدا.
And this is something which is very, very important.
سواء المثيرات الداخلية أو المثيرات الخارجية.
And this could apply for things that could be within the house, for example in the house, and things that are external.
داخل البيت الوالدين لابد أن يحرصوا، وهذا نبهت عليكم قبل ذلك، أن تكون العلاقة الخاصة A to Z داخل الغرفة فقط، داخل حدود الغرفة فقط. خارج الغرفة كأنهم إخوات.
And the Sheikh, he said, this is something we always emphasize from the beginning, that the parents have to be very, very cautious, especially when it comes to aspects to do with inside the house and also things that are outside the house.
مهما كان عمر الأولاد.
And it doesn't matter how old the child is.
إياك أن تقول هو صغير أو هي صغيرة لا يفهمون. الطفل يفهم كل شيء.
Don't think that when a child is young, you say that this child is still young, they don't understand anything. They understand every single thing.
ويسجل كل شيء.
And they record everything that happens.
وفي الوقت المناسب تبدأ هذه السلبيات تظهر عليه.
And after a period of time, you will see that these things, or they hear, or what they observe, they will have to become apparent.
كذلك من المثيرات التي يمكن أن تكون داخل البيت.
And some of the things that have an impact on a child when he's inside the house.
المسلسلات والأفلام والأغاني
And the things that happen usually inside the house are, for example, television, series, music, and all these things can have an impact on a child.
يعني موسيقى وغناء وناس يترقصون ويتمايلون وأشياء وملابس خليعة، كل هذه من الأشياء.
So some of the things that you find in the house that people, our parents or people in the house, they don't observe these things. They play music, they listen to music, watch things where, for example, TV series where people are not dressed appropriately.
والإنترنت وما أدراك ما الإنترنت.
And when it comes to the internet, my dear brothers and sisters, we can, what will tell you, what will make you understand the reality of this.
لابد يكون هناك تحكم عالي جدا من الوالدين بالنسبة للإنترنت.
There has to be a serious observation for the parents towards the children when it comes to the matter of the internet.
ومراقبة شديدة.
And they have to be very observant towards this.
وعدم ترك هذه الأجهزة الحديثة، التليفونات والآيباد وغيره، في يد الطفل وإعطائه كامل الحرية يتصرف كيفما شاء. هذا خطر جدا.
The parents should be very cautious of leaving these devices, in the hands of the children, and just leave them to do whatever they want and search whatever they want. Because this is very, very serious.
لأن هذا طبعا يعرضه إلى بعض المواقع المدمرة. هو ممكن لا يبحث، ولكن هو شغال ينزل شيء أمامه يبدأ يلتفت لمثل هذه الأمور فيضيع.
Because when you leave these devices in the hands of the children, they, without intentionally doing or having the intent to look at anything, they'll just be playing with it, and then all of a sudden something will pop up on the screen, and then that will open up a door which you won't be able to close.
كذلك التوجيهات التربوية بالنسبة للولد بالنسبة للتعامل مع الآخرين.
And also, the parents, they should be very, very keen on nurturing the children, how they deal with others.
التنبيهات المعروفة: لا تجلس على رجل أحد، لا تغير ملابسك أمام أحد. مثل هذه التعليمات أظن أنتم تفهمون يعني.
And some of the things that maybe some of us we may not be, aware of. For example, certain things like, the child should not sit on the lap of individuals. Every person they want to sit on their lap, and also not to change their clothes or take off their clothes in front of everyone.
وأن هذه المناطق لا أحد يقترب منها أبدا. لابد أن يكون الولد عنده علم بهذا.
So these affairs, my dear brothers and sisters, that no person should overlook, because as a child they should understand that these are serious affairs. نعم.
خارج البيت بقى الله المستعان. الإبعاد الأولاد عن المثيرات الجنسية، كذلك عدم المخالطة، عدم اللعب مع البنات، عدم السير مع أصدقاء السوء. كل هذه أشياء تجلب للولد مثل هذه الأمور.
So when it comes to affairs outside the house, the child should understand that they should not just free mix with any single person they find on the street, or even to befriend or to walk around with people that are going to have a very evil or a very severe and evil impact on them in terms of their characters and mannerisms. And also people that are going to take them away from the path of Islam.
واضح يا جماعة؟ يبقى نحن نقطع عليه أي مثير جنسي داخل حدود البيت أو خارج حدود البيت.
And so this is important. We as parents, we draw like a protection for these children when they're outside the house or inside the house. And these things that could potentially affect them in terms of their desires. As the Sheikh mentioned, I missed at the last point, even children should not get into this habit of, for example, the boys to be playing with girls. نعم. And also the girls vice versa. نعم.
لا تجعله يبيت عند أحد.
And do not make your child to become accustomed to living or sleeping in other people's houses.
وأنت.
And for yourself.
There's a point where he mentioned that no one should touch their private parts.
No.
They should know that no one should be able to touch their parts.
And also, one of the points that I missed out, that the children should learn and understand that no one is allowed to touch their private parts.
لا تجعله يبيت عند أحد.
And do not allow them to just sleep with anyone.
وأنت غير موجود أو أمه غير موجودة.
And when you yourself, you're not present in that house or the mother is not present.
لا تجعله ينام جنب أحد.
And do not allow them to sleep next to anyone.
داخل البيت أو خارج البيت.
That could be inside the house or outside the house.
وهذا تكلمنا عنه بشيء من التفصيل في أول الحلقات.
And this we spoke about quite extensively from the beginning of these lessons.
كل كلمة أقولها أنا أعيها. أنا راجل مربي بقالي 25 سنة في التربية وأعي ما أقول. لا أنا هذه ليست ألف ليلة وليلة. كل كلمة أقولها أنا أعرف أن الشخص إن لم يلتزم بها ما الذي يمكن أن يعود على الولد بسبب هذه الأمور.
So the Sheikh is saying every single word that he's saying here, from the beginning of these lessons up until now, these are lessons or things that he mentions out of experience, because he's been in this field of nurturing children for over 25 years. So everything that he's saying, we need to take it on board and understand that he has seen the repercussions, he has seen the consequences of people that have neglected implementing these affairs in their lives and the lives of their children.
واضح يا جماعة؟
Is that clear, إخوان? أخوات.
النجاح إنك تأجل شعور ابنك بالمتغيرات التي طرأت عليه بعد البلوغ إلى أطول فترة ممكنة. هذا هو النجاح.
نعم. And for a person to succeed, to achieve success, is to protect the children from the impact of these things that could have potentially on, for example, their desires. And this, if a person can achieve that and protect their children from these things, then this is extreme success.
في سؤال في النقطة دي؟
Is there anything which is not clear with regards to this point? Yeah.
What about friends sleeping? Is quantification not something to regular friends sleeping?
نعم. شيخ مثلا ايش خاص يعني؟
أنا أريدك تعرض الأسئلة كما كنت تعرض في الماضي. يعني هو الآن لما يتكلم في الأسئلة يعني يعمل كنترول على نفسه. أريد إبراهيم أن يتكلم كما كان يتكلم من قبل، كان BBC.
Sheikh is saying he wants you to present your questions the same way you used to present them before, relaxed and collected, inshallah, like a TV presenter. Inshallah. لا شيخ بالنسبة للذين يبيت في البيوت الأخوة، هل هناك في هذه البلاد عندهم أصدقاء يعني عندهم يعني أنا في الإجازة نذهب إلى بيت آخر وعندهم يعني الآباء هذا الأصدقاء موجودين، يعني هل يجوز هذا
يعني ده معهم؟
نعم.
بالنسبة لمسألة البيات في الخارج يا جماعة ليها ضابطين. الضابط الأول لما يكون ابني عاقل راشد يعني يفهم. الأمر الثاني أن يكون من معه على تربية وعلى دين، ومع أن كل واحد ينام في مكان خاص. هذه هي الشروط الثلاثة.
So the Sheikh, he said, with regards to the question, our brother Ibrahim asked, when, for example, it happens to be friends, sometimes kids that have like a friend sort of sleepover, could that be something which is still not allowed or permissible that children should abstain from it? The Sheikh said that there's three conditions that have to be taken into consideration when it comes to sleeping over. First of all, the child or the children that are going to have these sleepovers, they should be intelligent, they should be grown up and mature to understand what they're supposed to be doing. Na'am. And the second thing is the parents or the place where they're going to be sleeping over, the parents need to be people that are trustworthy, people that are upon istiqamah. Na'am. So you can trust them with your children. Is that clear? And also the third thing is these children, they should not be sleeping together in the same sort of bedding, as we mentioned in the previous lessons. They should be separated from each other so they can play together, but they should be separated from each other in the sense that they don't share the same sort of sleeping rooms or the same beddings. نعم.
واضح؟ محمد حسين.
On top of that, although the parents might be upon righteousness, we need to know the friends who they are, because they can have a phone, for example. In my house, I might not allow the phone. The companions, because they're together now, they could be on their phones playing. So that might be a condition as well to really highlight to make sure that you know what their friends are.
بس لا فقط إشارة يعني ممكن نقطة يعني مهمة فقط يعني حتى الأصدقاء لابد أن الآباء يعرفوا يعني حالهم يعني.
احنا قلنا هذا احنا قلنا يعني أنا ثلاثة أشياء. أن يكون مع ناس صالحين كويسين، واثنين يكون الإنسان عاقل راشد، ثلاثة كل واحد ينام في مكان مستقل.
So this is one of the points that the Sheikh mentioned, that the friends that they're spending time with, they need to be, of course, upon righteousness. And obviously this is the responsibility for the parents to make sure that these friends that the children are going to spend time with, they are upon istiqamah. Na'am.
واضح؟
Any more questions, Ikhwan, with regards to this?
النقطة 52 تقوية الصلة بينك وبين ولدك.
And the 53rd point, 52nd point, is for the parents to increase or to make a strong bond between your child and yourself, to strengthen that bond between your child and yourself.
وكذلك الأم مع بنتها مع ابنتها.
And also similarly the daughter with her mother.
ولا حرج أن تنشأ صداقة بين الأب وابنته وبين الولد وأمه، لا حرج.
And there's no problem becoming friends, making a friendship between the son and the father, or the daughter and the mother.
لكن هناك أمور معينة الولد لا
I think the Sheikh says between the father and the daughter and the mother and the son.
No, so there's no problem having it vice versa, the father and the daughter and the son with the mother.
ما بقول لك عشان كده. لكن هناك أمور لا يستطيع الولد أن يتكلم فيها إلا مع أبيه والعكس.
So there are affairs that for example, the son can only talk to these affairs to the father, and the opposite is the same.
تقوية الصلة بينك وبين ولدك حتى تجعله يعدك صديقا، وهذه مهمة جدا. أفضل صديق لي في الدنيا يكون أبويا.
So that bond should be strengthened to the extent that this child, or for example your children, they find you as a close companion, as a close friend to them, and this is the best friendship you can ever have, or the child can ever have.
مع حفظ القدر والمسافات.
And of course observing the boundaries and knowing your distance.
نحن أصدقاء ولكن أنا أبوك وأنت ابني.
With regards to obviously that relationship, the child should understand that yes, that we are friends, but I'm your father and you are my son.
وهذا يتم بالبشاشة معه.
And this will give them, that confidence.
وممازحته.
And they will not obviously belittle or underestimate the father in his role.
هذه نقطة مهمة جدا. يعني بعض الآباء يا جماعة بره يبتسم الابتسامة ما بتفرقش، أول ما يخش البيت يرفع الحاجب وينزل الحاجب ويبرق عينيه ويخش كده. لماذا هذا؟ يعني هو يفعل كل شيء محمود بره، وهو داخل من البيت أخذ بالك يتحول. يعني وهذا يكون مع الزوجة والأولاد، وإذا جاء ولد يتكلم معه لا يتحمل الكلام، وإذا ولد أراد أن يناقشه في مسألة لا يستمع إليه ويقول أنا الآن لا أستطيع أن أسمعك وكذا. مع مرور الوقت تكون هناك مسافة كبيرة بين الولد وبين أبيه، فيضطر الولد أن يبحث عن البديل. عنده أسئلة، عايز يقيم علاقة صداقة، طالما أن الأب غير موجود وغير متوفر وغير متاح، إذن يبحث عن البديل في الخارج، ويمكن أن يكون هذا البديل جيد ويمكن أن يكون غير جيد.
And some of the affairs that we find nowadays is, you find, for example, some of the fathers or even the mothers, especially with the fathers, for example, he's outside and he's the most cheersome person, he's friendly to everyone. As soon as he enters into his house, all of a sudden his face changes and he puts on that very like a gloomy face, and he's very upset. He seems like he puts on like a serious face in front of his family. And this is how he deals with his wife, for example, and he deals the same way with his children. And when the child, for example, comes to him to ask him for something, he doesn't even give them attention, and they end up having to turn to someone else. So this relationship is, of course, a very unhealthy relationship, that a child is forced to have to turn to other alternatives to find a replacement, someone who they befriend, and they end up having to look outside. For example, someone who maybe can be upon righteousness, but most of the cases is going to be someone who's not going to be upon righteousness to guide them through in the affairs of life.
تعطيه الثقة في أن يتكلم، مسموح له أن يتكلم في أي شيء مهما كان دقيق معك.
And it's very important that the parents should give that child the confidence to speak about anything and anything that they want to speak about to them.
لو وصلت إلى هذه المرحلة تكون قد نجحت نجاحا كبيرا في تربيتك لولدك.
If you happen to reach at this station where you have that confidence within your child, and the child feels confident to speak to you about anything and everything, then you have indeed achieved a great success.
فأنت الآن الصديق الأول والمرجع إليه عندما يريد أن يقول أو أن يتكلم.
And so first of all, he's become a very close friend of you, a very close companion, and you're a person who he returns back to if he needs anything.
تمام؟ أي سؤال في هذه النقطة؟
Any question?
When maybe kind of further ties or Silat al-Rahim, you're going to see your brothers or your sisters, maybe you take a family over, maybe the children's cousins, like maybe you say no phone, no film, no TV, with their cousins, they may allow that. So when you're going over to sort of the ties of kinship, their children are not in the same sort of way, and they can be influenced. You need to sort of keep the ties of kinship. So.
نعم. النقطة السابقة يعني قلت يعني أحسن أن لا يترك الأولاد. كنت في مثلا شخص يعني يريد أن يصل رحمة، وفي هذا البيت عندهم يعني ابن عمه وهكذا، لكن يريد أن يصل هذا الرحمة، لكن عندهم يعني مشاكل يشهدون من المسلسلات في التلفزيون. هل يعني في هذا الفائدة من لأنه يريد أن يصل رحمة، هل عليه يعني أن يكون في هذا البيت أو
لا، هو ينبه كنتم خير أمة أخرجت للناس تأمرون بالمعروف وتنهون عن المنكر. أولا أنا عائلتي تعرف أنني شخص ملتزم ومتدين، وأنني أحب أن أصلهم دائما، ولكن عندما أصلهم لابد أن يلتزموا بحدود الشريعة، وإلا لن أذهب. يعني هذا يقال إما بالتصريح أو بالتعريض، وإن لم ينتهوا عن ذلك فيمكن أن تصلهم عن طريق الهاتف أو ما شابه ذلك. وإن سألوك لماذا تقول لهم والله السبب أنكم لا تمتنعوا عن مثل هذه الأمور. أنا لا أضمن عمري وأنا جالس معكم تعصون الله، يمكن أن تقبض روحي فتكون بالنسبة لي سوء خطير. ولكن في الأول لابد أن يأمرهم بالمعروف وينهاهم عن المنكر بالحكمة وبالموعظة الحسنة، ويقدم لهم هدايا وكذا.
نعم. So with regards to the question, our brother asked is, for example, for the purpose of ties, bridging the ties of kinship, for example, his children he might want to take them to, for example, their cousins and spend time with their aunties. But because he knows that there are certain things that which are in opposition to Islam, for example, the children maybe they might have certain habits, watching certain, TVs, series and whatever, these kind of things, that his children may not necessarily watch. But for the benefit of, tying, for the ties of kinship, can he take his children, allow them to have a sleepover and all these things? So the Sheikh, he said, it's very important that the person understands and he communicates for example, what he does as a person. For example, someone who's practicing, he should communicate to his relatives or his family and say to them, look, I don't engage myself with these kind of activities, and I don't want my children to be engaging in these things. Because as an ummah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he said, we order good and we forbid the evil. So from the responsibility of this person, the individual, is to order your family upon goodness and to prevent them from evil. And the first thing a person should do is to call them to that which is good. And if you notice that they're insisting upon that evil which they're still upon, then the best thing is to say to them, clear your cut and say to them, look, I don't want to engage myself in these activities. I don't want to put my children, because I cannot guarantee how long I'm going to live. Imagine I happen to be in that situation and I die when I'm witnessing or looking at this haram that you're involved in. So if they don't understand that, then at least you've taken your responsibility to communicate and make them understand the reason why you have to take a distance. But this is obviously from the beginning should be done with hikmah, with wisdom, and good advice, speaking to them in a manner that they can understand, and inshallah take the advice from them.
Just a small point. It's visits and sleepovers.
No.
It's not just sleepovers. And the other thing is, if they are still doing it, then they should not go, and they should just tie their kinship by just calling.
No. So this includes visiting and obviously sleepovers. And if if you feel that the relationship cannot work by taking your children to visit their relatives, then maintain that relationship with them over the phone. نعم.
المهم أنا لن أذهب إلى أرض معصية، ولن آخذ أولادي إلى مكان فيه معصية، لأني لا أضمن عمري، وهذا كيف أقول لأولادي هذا حلال وهذا حرام وأخذهم إلى الحرام. فالحرام ليس فيه استثناءات.
نعم. So Sheikh is saying, if for example, with himself, he would not go to a place where there's disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He would not, and definitely he would not take his children in that place. Because already he has built that foundation with them. He's told them these things are haram. You should not involve yourself or engage yourselves with, in them. So if you take them there, having told them that these things are haram, they're going to be thinking, look, you told us not to do this, but you are the one who's taking us to these places. Now, so a person does not guarantee, doesn't have any guarantee over his life. Anything can happen. It could, that could be the moment where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He takes you or you die in that situation. So it's very important to instill these aspects or these affairs into the hearts, into our children.
من طلب رضا الناس في سخط الله سخط الله عليه وأسخط عليه الناس. تخيل أنت؟ يعني إذا فعلت الشيء مخالفة لله إرضاء ليهم مش هيرضى عنك، هيسخطوا عليك، والأصعب من ده أن ربنا سبحانه وتعالى يسخط عليك.
And as we know in the hadith, that the person who does something to please the people, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he will become, something which is obviously in contrary, which displeases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Any person who does that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will be angry with him, and also the people will be angry with him. Imagine, this is double loss. So the people, because Allah is in charge of the hearts of the people, so Allah, He will make the people become angry with Him, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will also be upset with him.
النقطة الثالثة والخمسون عدم إغضاق المال عليه.
So the 53rd point is not to be wasteful on, for example, in terms of spending towards your children.
المال الكثير يا جماعة بيبوظ الولد.
When you have too much wealth, it can spoil a child.
وبعض الآباء يظنون أن هذا نوع من الحنية والعاطفة، يعني المحبة الزائدة وكده.
And some of the people, they might think, when I have a lot of money, this is a means for me to sort of show how much love and care that I'm going to give to my children.
ولكن هذا للأسف كما قلت لكم في الغالب يفسد الأولاد.
And as we've said, that when you spend extremely excessively towards your child, this will have a very severe impact and it will spoil the child.
لأن كل شيء يريدونه حلال أو حرام ثمنه معلوم.
Because anything they want, halal and haram, is based on currency or how much you have.
وطالما أن معه مال زائد يفكر.
And when they know that there's more money, they will be thinking more.
وكذلك طبعا.
Yeah, if they know there's more money, I think that their requests, their desires will even be more. واضح؟
Understood.
في مشكلة يا أسامة؟ إبراهيم المرة دي عمل مشكلة؟ عمر؟ نكمل ولا ايه؟ الولد اللي هو معاه فلوس كتير دائما المال الكتير ده يورث الكبر والعنطزة. اخد بالك، تجده يعني يتميز على زملائه ورفقائه ويتفاخر عليهم. في الغالب هذا يعني للأسف يورث الأولاد عادات غير سليمة أو غير سوية.
So a child, sometimes, most of the cases you find a child who is, for example, privileged and they have a lot of money with them and they know their parents have a lot of money, this will create within them arrogance and being, to show that, themselves, they're on top of others, even with their friends, and this is something that is very, very, very bad.
وكذلك عدم التقتير عليه بحيث يضطر إلى السرقة. ولا تجعل يدك مغلولة إلى عنقك ولا تبسطها كل البسط فتقعد ملوم المعصية. احنا نعطيله الوسط اللي هو يجيب بيه حاجاته واحتياجاته الأساسية ولا يكون معه فائض، وفي نفس الوقت لا يشعر بالفقر والاحتياج أو العوز.
And also it's very, very important to, as a Muslim, to always draw a balance in these things. We're talking about being excessive or spending excessive amounts of money on your children. But also similarly, you should not hold too much. You should not hold too much from them to the extent that it's going to force them to end up having to go and steal or commit crimes because they don't have much money to use. But rather a person should be balanced. As Allah says, وَلَا تَجْعَلْ يَدَكَ مَغْلُولًا إِلَى عُنُقِكَ. Do not, make, do not, tie your, as the statement says, It's like you're tying your hand on your neck, meaning you don't give. You're very stingy with yourself. And then also, do not let it go too much, and do not give too much to the extent that you have given excessively. So a balance should be drawn between them.
وهذا الإحساس العكسي أحيانا يضطر بعض الأولاد إن هم يمد إيده على فلوس أبي أو أمي أو آخرين فنحذر من هذا يعني.
And this, the opposite of that, not expending too much on the children. If you withhold too much from them, you don't give them, it's going to make them. It's going to have that sort of put something in their hearts to even start stealing from their parents. So you find a child who will go and he will realize that his parents are not looking, and he will take money from their pockets or money from their mothers.
هناك تنبيه مهم للآباء.
And this is a very important point to the fathers.
ليس كل ما يحتاجه الأولاد لابد أن تأتيهم به.
It is not that every single thing that your child desires or they want, you give them.
هذا سيء جدا بالنسبة للأولاد.
And this is a very bad characteristic when it comes to the child.
يعني بعض الآباء لو ابنه قال له أنا عايز نجم من السماء يتصعد ويأتي به. يعني تشبيها.
No. So for example, you find some parents that even if the child wants to have a star being brought down from the heavens, he would have to find his way to do that for the sake of pleasing the child. This is just an example.
وهذا يفسد الأولاد.
And this is, the point of the example is the parents, they will go out of their way to get anything for the sake of making a child happy. And this is something which will spoil that child.
فلو كبر الولد على هذا
And if the child grows up seeing this,
سيكلفك كثير جدا عندما يكبر.
And he's going to be a burden. He's going to be a burden when he grows up.
وعندما يكون مسؤول عن نفسه
And when he becomes responsible upon himself,
ولا يستطيع أن يوفر احتياجاته
and he's not able to take care of his responsibilities and his needs,
عندها يمكن أن يبحث عن طرق غير مشروعة حتى يصل إلى الأشياء. شوف من شيء بسيط جدا يوصل الولد إلى ما يكبر. لابد كما قلنا يكون عندك بعد نظر.
So it's very important for a person to have, to have insight and to always look at the end result of these things, how it can have an impact on a child. Because when a child grows up with this mindset, thinking that everything I want, I'm given, and growing up is going to be a burden on you, and when he becomes responsible upon himself, he's going to be a burden upon himself. And if he doesn't find a way to get those things that he wants, he's going to find ways. He's going to find ways to get that thing, and if he doesn't find a way to get it, then he's going to end up doing haram. And look at the impact, how one thing that we underestimate at the beginning, it has a very huge impact.
فيجب على الولد أن يعتاد على كلمتي نعم لا سآتي لن آتي.
So it is very important, for the parents to get for the child to get used to, for the child to get used to these two statements: yes and no. You will have it, or you're not going to have it.
حتى لو كان معك ملايين تفعل هذا.
Even if you have a lot of money, like millions of money,
وفر له الاحتياجات الأساسية.
You give them things they need, for example, the basic needs.
وما زاد.
And something extra.
أحيانا أفعل وأحيانا لا أفعل.
So these extra things, sometimes you give them, and sometimes you withhold from them.
واضح؟
Clear?
من النقطة اللي قلناها يعني دي تكملة ليها هي النقطة 54 ولكن تدخل في الانتباه للسيارة وشرائها له إذ قد تكون سبب الانحراف. يعني أول ما الولد يبقى 18 سنة هوب راح الأجانس يجيب له عربية أحدث موديل عشان يتفخر بقى قدام زمايله في الجامعة عارف الموضوع ده طبعا. متهيألي هنا مفيش الكلام ده يعني بس. لا في بلادنا متوفر جدا بالذات في القاهرة يجيب له عربية عشان ايه ولبس معين على اساس طبعا في الغالب مثل هؤلاء الشباب في الغالب ينحرف.
So the Sheikh is saying, this 54th point. So some of the things that happen, which this is actually connected to the point before that, is the parents should understand, and the example which is specifically mentioned in this point is they should not buy their children like cars or, for example, things that are going to be a means of distracting them and be a distraction for them, especially when they grow up. Because we find in certain countries, when a child reaches the age of 18, the parents will go out and buy them, like for example, a very nice car. Or they will say to them, look, choose this model, choose that car, whichever one you want. And the ghalib, or what usually happens, when they buy these cars, it's going to be a means of distraction for them, and it's going to take them away from the path. Na'am? So this is something that obviously linked to the point before that. Spending, overspending, excessively spending on your children to the extent that it's going to have a very huge impact on them.
وغالبا أصدقاء السوء من الجنسين يسعون وراء مثل هؤلاء ويفعلون الأفعال.
And usually what happens, even for example, the evil friends, evil friends of that child, when they see them in that sort of manner, for example, what you've given them, they will start to follow them. They will start to be, to want to be with them. Na'am. And then what happens? They're going to end up committing or falling into, things which are haram.
والشباب الذين يبيعون المخدرات يبحثون عن هؤلاء أيضا، لأنهم دائما يبحثون عن الأثرياء الأغنياء. عشان كده دايما الذي يقع في براسم المخدرات اللي هي الهيروين والكوكايين والأشياء اللي دائما المترفين.
No. So, and you find some of the people that, for example, they buy and they sell these, for example, drugs and intoxicants, heroin and cocaine and all these drugs. They are also targeting that particular individual. Na'am, they're targeting that particular individual who seems to be wealthy. Their parents are looking after them. They're giving them all these cars and all these nice things. They target them specifically because why? Because they will be able to sell this stuff to them. Na'am, and some of these things we see them, especially in our countries.
تمام. في سؤال في النقطة ديت؟
Any questions?
في ملاحظة أريد أن أنهي بها هذا اللقاء. ألاحظ أن هنا انتشرت معصية القزع.
Sheikh, he said there's a point that he wants to talk about which is very, very important. This is outside of the topic of discussion. And this is the topic, this is an issue that is seen, for example, our children, when they shave their hair, they shave it in a way which is not permissible, which is...
كبارا وصغارا.
This is not just children. This includes, the children, the younger ones, and also the elders.
يعني هذا الأسبوع رأيت أكثر من حد في المسجد الأب وأولاده يفعلون هذا.
The Sheikh, he said, in this week, he saw the father and the son cutting the hair in the same way.
الخلاصة شعرك كله يكون مستوى واحد، يا إما كبير يا إما صغير.
So, in summary, the hairstyle, when you cut your hair, it should be on one level. Either you leave it high, meaning you leave it to grow, or you leave it, you cut it short.
نهى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم عن ذلك وهذه من أفعال غير المسلمين.
And the Prophet ﷺ, he forbade this, and this is from the actions of the non-Muslims. To have your hair cut to different sizes. This, the sides are short, and then this is extremely long.
هذه المعصية دخلت عندنا مصر بسبب فيلم مثله ممثل مشهور، كان الفيلم اسمه كابوريا. تخيل، قبل هذا الفيلم ما كان أحد يعرف هذا ولا يفعل هذا، والممثل هذا مات عليه بقى من ربنا يستحق، الله أعلم بحاله. ولكن تخيل بعد هذا الفيلم نزل هذا الفيلم، الشباب أقبل على مشاهدته، وهذا ما أقوله بشكل غير عادي. وبعدها كله يحلق هذه الحلقة. ولا يحملون أوزارهم. أنا ما أعرفش أحواله إيه طبعا، ومات وبين يدي الله سبحانه، ما نقدرش نحكم على أحد لعله تاب قبل موته، الله المستعان. ولكن ولا يحملون أوزارهم وأوزارا مع أوزارهم، ولا يحملون أثقالهم وأثقالا مع أثقالهم، ولا يسألون يوم القيامة عما كانوا يفترون. فإن الله
So the Sheikh is saying that when it comes to this issue, this is something which has become even more apparent in his home country, in Egypt. And this started the time when this film
الكابوريا هذا شيء بحري يؤكل، يسموه ايه عندكم؟ تعرف الكابوريا؟ يمشي هذا في البحر، ليس اخطبوط، هو له عظم. ايوه برتقالي، وهو كله عظم كده.
So this film, Crabs, when it came out in Egypt, this is when this hairstyle issue started. as soon as the people, especially the youth, they started watching it, and obviously the elders, they started watching it, the whole nation, the whole nation started to, to copy this hairstyle. You find people, especially the children and also the elders, they're doing the exact same thing. And this is something which is which is forbidden in Islam. Now, Sheikh نسيت آخر كلام يقول ممكن هذا الملخص يعني.
وصلت الرسالة؟
نعم.
ماشي. أسأل الله العلي القدير. الوقت طبعا عدى ب10 دقائق.
نعم.
مش عارف انتوا الوقت معاكم بيسيح ليه مش عارف.
So inshallah ta'ala, we stop here because the time has run out on us, and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to benefit us with what we've heard and to give us the ability to act upon that which we've heard from the Shaykh. And this is wallahi the most important thing, because hearing is one thing, but implementing is a completely different thing. And what Allah requires from us is the second. Na'am, to implement. As Allah says, الَّذِينَ يَسْتَمِعُونَ الْقَوْلَ فَيَتَّبِعُونَ أَحْسَنَهُ. People that listen to that which is said and they...
يا جماعة جاءني رجل أمس قال لي أريد الكتاب الذي تشرح منه التربية. قلت له هذا ليس كتاب، هذا بحث. وأنا يعني 80% من الكلام ليس مكتوب هنا. يعني أنا أخذ العنصر وأعيش. لو أنت قلت لي النهاردة غدا نعيد نفس الحلقة دي 100% لن يكون، يعني مش 100% عشان يعني ممكن يتشابه 30-40% و60% لا أستطيع أن أقول مرة أخرى، لأن هذا رزق الله يرسله إلينا ونحن جالسون.
نعم. So just to finish off, inshallah, the Shaykh said these points, everything that we're learning here, this is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given him, in terms of, for us to benefit from. Because someone came to him yesterday and said to him, Shaykh, can you give us a book that you're going through these lessons about nurturing our children? He said, no, this is not a book. It's a research that someone had, written down. Now, so it's a research that someone has written down, and some of these points, as he's going through them, he will mention a point, and then the tafsir, the explanations of it, this comes from himself. So if he was to repeat the same lesson as he did today, the chances are he's not going to give the exact same points. Now, because maybe he might be able to give 30% of what he mentioned, but 60% or 70% will be totally different. Now, so this is, the point is for us to take benefit of what is being said, especially these lessons, and we act upon them.
فبركة العلم أن نجلس سويا، والله سبحانه وتعالى هو المعين، وهو الذي يفتح بيننا بالحق وهو الفتاح العليم.
Now, so from the barakah, the blessings of knowledge is that we sit together and we learn, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who aids and gives us this understanding and ability to implement.
ولكن هذا المبحث الذي تكلمنا فيه شهر ونحتاج إلى شهرين آخرين، أنت يمكن أن تقرأه فقط في 15 دقيقة. 15 دقيقة لا تزيد.
So this, this research that Sheikh is talking about, that we've been speaking about for the whole month since the beginning of Ramadan up to now, and we still need another 2 months to even finish it off. You can just read it in about 15 minutes, and you'll be finishing. You will finish it. But this is taking us a whole month, and we still need another extra 2 months to actually finish it. So it shows you how much explanation and detail that goes into it.
وأنا كان نفسي المسجد لو الناس يعلمون أهمية هذا الدرس والله لامتلأ المسجد فوق وتحت وفرشنا، ولكن الله المستعان.
And the Shaykh is saying that if the people knew the benefit and the importance of attending these lessons, benefiting from these lessons, the masjid will be packed, top, middle and bottom, to benefit from what is being taught with regards to nurturing our children.
ماذا تعرف عن تربية الابناء؟ لا أدري.
هذا حال 90% من الآباء. ماذا تعرف؟ احكي لي كمان. لا أدري. لا أدري.
So the majority of our parents, the majority of the parents nowadays, if you were to ask them, what do you know about nurturing your children? They will reply to you, we don't know. نعم.
وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. نلتقي غدا في الحلقة الأخيرة في رمضان إن شاء الله.
إن شاء الله تعالى. We'll meet inshallah tomorrow in our last sitting.